Among the many events on Capitol Hill today, the debate over the Trump administration's so-called zero-tolerance immigration policy came to a head as lawmakers questioned officials on the separation of children from their families at the border. Amna Nawaz has the story.
With the gavel now in their hands, Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee grilled government officials from multiple agencies on the Trump administration's family separation policy.
Do you swear or affirm under
Democrats repeatedly decrying the policy as inhumane and un-American.
Deliberate separation of families is immoral and is not justified and cannot be justified by good or bad policies, good or bad intentions.
Committee Republicans, like Arizona's Andy Biggs, lamented separating families, but insisted something must be done to address what he called a crisis at the border.
Our policies don't provide deterrent. They actually provide incentives to come into this country.
But the panel of witnesses from the many agencies behind the so-called zero-tolerance policy of spring 2018 faced some tough questions seeking accountability. Commander Jonathan White of HHS repeated previous testimony that he had warned senior officials of the potential harm before the policy was in place.
The best available evidence is that separation of children from parents entails very significant and potentially lifelong risks of psychological and physical harm.
The former head of the agency caring for migrant children, Scott Lloyd, was asked about those warnings.
When Commander White, as a child welfare expert, warned you about the cruel consequences of family separation, were you concerned?
I accepted what he told me.
But when pressed by Democrat Sylvia Garcia, Lloyd and officials from Justice, ICE, and Border Patrol said they never voiced concerns in any other meetings.
Did I? No.
I did not say anything along those lines.
I did not voice in that exact term, no. Many of my officers are parents as well, and of course, it's a difficult.
This is a difficult situation, and it is for any law enforcement professional. But as law enforcement professionals, it is our job to enforce the law. I see the policy as being designed to deliver a consequence for violating the law.
Lloyd, who has since left his post for another HHS role, also denied reports he stood in the way of reunification effort.
Lloyd directed his staff to stop keeping a spreadsheet tracking separated families. Is that true?
No, it's not.
The biggest question that remained unanswered, just how many children were actually separated.
You do not know how many children were separated, beginning with the time that the policy was implemented in El Paso in July 2017, and when the policy was officially announced on April 6, 2018. Is that correct?
I don't have that number with me. It is a number that I can get.
A number Democrats will continue to pursue, along with other questions about the policy. The House Oversight Committee today ordered subpoenas for Attorney General William Barr, HHS Secretary Alex Azar, and Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen for further answers over the policy.
And Amna joins me now. You were following this hearing all day long. So a long time coming, Democrats with a lot of questions. They're looking for accountability. What stood out to you?
Listen, the number one headline to me, Judy, was confirmation from Border Patrol that family separations continue. And not just where we'd expect them, if there's a danger to the child or a violent criminal history of the parent, also just if the parent is illegally re-entering. The first time you illegally enter, it's a misdemeanor. The second time, it's a felony rather. So that is still happening. And we've heard anecdotes about that, heard that from our sources. It's confirmation from Border Patrol. Also striking to me, though, is how many of those key questions weren't answered today. There were hours of questions, multiple repeated questions to those officials. We still don't know who conceived of the policy. We still have no idea why it was implemented in the chaotic and messy way it was. And we still don't know how many kids were affected. It's a stunning thing because for the last year, we've been trying to figure out answers to those questions. Chairman Nadler actually said, you guys have not been forthcoming with the documents. We know DOJ and DHS only submitted documents to the committee last night, so still a ton of questions remain about the policy.
But there were, as you pointed out, Amna, a number of agencies, almost half a dozen agencies represented. What questions did they answer?
Well, we got some numbers. HHS official in particular, Commander White, had a lot of information. He's the child welfare expert. And we know there's been an ongoing effort to reunite some of the separated families. So let's take a look at the numbers we do know. We want to stick to the facts here. We know the government identified identified 2,816 separated children under zero tolerance. They say they have reunited with the parent that the kid was separated from 2,155. Another 580 have been placed with family sponsors. 76 of those children are still in government custody. They can't be reunited because it would be unsafe to do so. And 5 children in their custody, they still haven't reunited. They said they're working to figure out if they can. But Judy, keep in mind, this is at least 10 months those kids have now been in government custody.
And you were telling us, Amna, there was a particularly troubling part of the hearing, line of questioning from Ted Deutsch, the congressman from Florida, saying there are HHS documents that indicate a number of these children were sexually abused. What is known about the validity?
Yeah, his line of questioning there got a lot of attention on social media too. He shared the documents with us and we went through them. What they do outline is a disturbing number of allegations over the 4 years from 2015, 16, 17, and 18, almost 1,000 allegations each year of sexual abuse or assault or misconduct, many of them against the staff. We know there's reason to be concerned. We've had reporting in the past, even here on the show, where there have been a handful of staff at shelters who misused their power and who did sexually assault or act inappropriately with children. We know those are a handful of cases. And Commander White there also said every allegation is investigated. Every single thing we've looked into shows us most of those claims are unfounded. The bigger question in all of this, Judy, though, is all the things we still don't know at the end of this day. What's the government doing to try to figure out how many kids? Nothing, unless it looks like people are asking them for answers. How are border officials deciding who to separate? We haven't seen any written policy or guidelines. And at the end of the day, what we know is from all the new information we get, the administration decided to put an immigration agenda ahead of the well-being of the children.
Well, it's a disturbing set of questions and answers, and I know the questions are going to keep coming.
They will indeed.
Amna Nawaz, thank you.
Thanks, Judy.